Hi, it's Mike DelSignore, Boston OUI lawyer. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you what you need to know if you're arrested for OUI and your case is going to be heard in one of the courts that are affiliated with the BMC, South Boston, BMC Central, East Boston, West Roxbury, Dorchester. These are all courts associated with the BMC. Cases in Massachusetts, OUI cases, all proceed the same way. I've talked to hundreds of people. I know the common questions. I'm going to go over what I think you should know and what are the common misconceptions people have. First, make sure you understand when you can get your license back. If you refused a breath test, it's a 6-month suspension. Don't try to appeal that. There is an appeal form where you can go to the registry in 15 days. If you do that, they're going to take out an immediate threat. You're going to lose your license for a longer period of time. I used to appeal those. I don't anymore. The RMV policy has changed where now they're basically taking out an additional suspension if you appeal the refusal. If you took a breath test over 0.08, you can get your full license back in 30 days. Schedule a hearing almost immediately because there's a wait. If you wait for day 31, you're going to wait another 3 weeks. So you almost want to schedule that hearing a day or two after your court date to make sure you can get the first date after the suspension ends. You're going to pay $500. You'll have your full license back. So while I'm trying to fight the case, because there's a lot of defenses to breath test cases, while I'm getting all the evidence, you'll be able to drive. And that's going to help you, keep your job, manage your family, and things like that. Now, if you lose the case down the road, there's an additional 45-day suspension. But you don't benefit by not getting your license back after the 30 days. You're not going to ever get credit for that time. So if you wait 40 days, 60 days to get your license back after the 30, the additional time you waited, you can't apply that to any other suspensions. That's just gone. Now, the most important thing I want people to understand, charged with an OUI in Boston, is these are winnable cases. It's very difficult to prove an OUI beyond a reasonable doubt. Field sobriety tests are very subjective. There's a lot of reasons. Maybe you didn't do so well on these tests. Maybe it was the weather, the road conditions. Maybe you don't have good balance. A lot of officers explain the test very quickly. When we see body camera video, we see various types of demonstrations. We see officers interrupting the person during the test. So there's a lot of methods that I'll use to say that those field tests don't show you're impaired. And in most cases, I'll use those to show that they actually contradict the officer's opinion, that you did well, that a lot of the things you did were not typical of someone who was under the influence of alcohol. So I'll look at the entire case, and when the police write the report, they're trying to nitpick every little thing you do to say you're impaired. We do the opposite. We try to find every area where we could say if someone was drunk, they'd exhibit these signs and say that you didn't exhibit those signs. So it shows you were sober, that you were good enough to drive, that you weren't impaired by alcohol. And we offer other conclusions. Sometimes you could have been tired, so there could be an accident. There could be some bad driving. In many cases, there's some bad driving. But it doesn't mean there's alcohol involved. The roads in Boston certainly are confusing to people. You could have been on your phone, things like that, where maybe that's a civil infraction. It doesn't show you were impaired by alcohol. Now, if you took a breath test, there's methods that I can use to get these tests excluded from evidence. I can do a motion to exclude them. There are legal requirements and procedures that must be followed, and a lot of times they're not followed. So if you have an OUI in Boston, sometimes the offices vary in how many OUIs they do. So some officers are very familiar with the procedures while others are not. So there's a vast difference, and there's a lot of new troopers out on the road now. I've had cases even recently where there's mistakes in how the breath test was administered. I had a case recently where there's mistakes in how the field sobriety tests were administered. You see officers reading these tests from a card. You're supposed to memorize all the instructions, first time out, nervous around a police officer, and some officers are reading from a card. So if they can't recall the instructions after being trained, going to weeks of training at the academy, how fair is this test for you if you're supposed to be given a 30 to 40 second instruction and you must do it perfectly? So there are a lot of defenses to these cases. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard. It's very different from the stand that got you arrested. All officer needs is probable cause to get you off the road, require you to come to court. But when you're in court, the government's got to rule out every reasonable doubt, prove the case to a highest degree of certainty. That's where I've come in. I've been doing this for 20 years, defending people in front of judges, juries. It's my passion to help people win their OUI case, make the best decisions for themselves, get their lives back together. I can help you. Call, text anytime, 781-686-5924.